The grand hall of the Elthari Palace shimmered with crystal lights. Towers of glass and stone rose high above, their ceilings painted with stars that seemed to glow on their own. Thousands of alien nobles filled the chamber, whispering to one another with sharp voices that cut through the air like knives. They had come to witness a ceremony that shocked the galaxy itself, the marriage of their queen, Zeralis of the Elthari Empire, to a human. For many, it was unthinkable. The Elthari were one of the oldest and proudest species in the known galaxy. Their empire stretched across dozens of star systems, their fleets unmatched, their warriors feared. And yet in this moment their ruler stood hand in hand with a man from Earth. The man's name was Daniel Kane. He wore a simple ceremonial uniform, black with silver trim, not nearly as decorated as the robes of alien nobles. His face was calm, his eyes steady. He had no crown, no armor, no signs of power. Compared to the shining scales and glowing skin of the Elthari nobles, he seemed plain, almost fragile. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Why him?" one noble hissed. "He is only human," another sneered. "Does she mean to insult us all?" Queen Zeralis stood tall beside him, her gown of woven starlight flowing like liquid silver. Her crown glowed faintly with energy, a symbol of her right to rule. Her violet eyes scanned the crowd, sharp as blades. She heard their doubts, their scorn, but her voice did not shake when she spoke. "This union," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber, "is not one of weakness. It is one of choice. Daniel Kane is my husband, and together we will shape the path of this empire." Some cheered, though their voices were thin against the heavy silence. Many remained quiet, their disbelief hidden behind cold expressions. Daniel said nothing. He stood at her side, his posture straight, his expression calm. But deep inside, his heart pounded. He had fought battles before, though never like this. Not with soldiers or weapons, but with judgment, doubt, and mistrust. The ceremony continued. The binding vows were spoken, not just words, but energy woven between them. Golden threads of light formed in the air, wrapping around their joined hands. Alien priests chanted softly, sealing the union in front of the empire. When it ended, the hall erupted, not with joy, but with noise. Some clapped politely, some muttered curses under their breath, and others simply left in silence. The queen lifted Daniel's hand high, forcing the nobles to see him not as a guest, but as her equal. "Let it be known," she declared, "that the queen of the Elthari does not bow to tradition nor to fear. Let it be known that I chose freely, and I do not regret." But even as she said it, she wondered. Later, when the hall had emptied and only echoes remained, Queen Zeralis stood alone with Daniel in her private chambers. The starlight gown had been set aside and her crown rested on the table. She looked at him, really looked for the first time that day. "You were silent," she said. "Even when they insulted you?" Daniel gave a small shrug. "Words are just words. I've been called worse." Her eyes narrowed. "Do you know what they think of you?" "What they think of me for choosing you?" "Yes," Daniel said quietly. "They think you made a mistake." The queen's expression softened, though only slightly. "Did I?" Daniel met her gaze. "That's not for me to decide. That's for time to prove." There was something in his voice, steady, calm, unshaken, that made her pause. He did not speak like a man desperate for power or desperate for her favor. He spoke like a man who had already faced storms and carried scars, though none were visible on his skin. "You are strange. Human," she said at last. "I've heard that before," Daniel replied with a faint smile. In the days that followed, the empire buzzed with talk of the marriage. Everywhere they went, Daniel felt eyes on him. Alien nobles bowed to the queen but looked past him as if he were nothing. Servants whispered when they thought he could not hear. Even some of the queen's closest advisors questioned her choice openly. "Your Majesty," one of them said during council, "alliances are forged with power, not sentiment. This human brings no fleets, no armies, no planets. What does he offer?" Queen Zeralis's eyes flicked to Daniel, who sat silently at her side. She expected him to bristle, to defend himself. But he did not. He remained still, as though the words could not touch him. Later, when they were alone again, she asked him, "Why did you not answer? Why do you not defend yourself?" Daniel looked at her. "Because they wouldn't listen. They've already decided what I am. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. You endure their poison," she said softly. "But for how long?" "As long as I need to," he replied. One evening, weeks after the wedding, the queen invited Daniel to walk with her in the palace gardens. The air glowed faintly with drifting light from the bioluminescent plants. A small stream wound through the center, its water sparkling like diamonds. "Do you regret it?" she asked him suddenly. "Marrying me? Standing in front of an empire that despises you?" Daniel stopped, looking up at the alien stars. "No, I don't regret it. Regret is for things you cannot change. I chose this." Her voice was quieter now. "Even if it destroys you?" Daniel turned to her, and for the first time since the wedding, there was fire in his eyes. "I've been destroyed before. I know how to rebuild." The queen stared at him. For a moment she saw not weakness, not fragility, but something deeper. A strength hidden beneath calm. A strength not born of power or armies, but of endurance. She wondered then if perhaps she had not made a mistake. But beyond the palace walls, danger stirred. The neighboring Krell dominion had watched the marriage with hungry eyes. To them it was not a sign of peace, but of weakness. If the proud Elthari queen had lowered herself to marry a human, then surely her empire was ripe for conquest. And so, while the empire gossiped and doubted, fleets gathered in the dark. The queen did not yet know. Daniel did not yet reveal what he carried inside. But the galaxy was about to learn. For the human she had married was not as ordinary as he seemed. He was broken starlight. The days after the wedding passed slowly, yet tension in the Elthari Empire grew faster than anyone could measure. Rumors spread like wildfire, fueled by alien nobles who could not accept that their proud queen had chosen a human. "You will see," one whispered in the corridors of the palace. "This human cannot survive our ways. He will fail her, and the empire will suffer." Others nodded in fear and doubt, their eyes glinting with ambition. If Daniel Kane, the human, could be broken, perhaps they could seize power for themselves. But the queen seemed unaffected. Zoralis moved through the halls with her usual poise, her violet eyes cold but commanding. She noticed the whispers, but she ignored them, at least outwardly. Only once, in the privacy of her chambers, did she speak her worry aloud. "They mock him," she said to Daniel as they stood by a balcony overlooking the city of crystal towers. "And they mock me for choosing him. Can he survive this? Can we survive this?" Daniel's gaze followed hers to the horizon, where the stars met the shimmering spires. "I have survived worse than whispers," he said. "We will survive this too." Zoralis studied him. He was quiet, calm, almost unnervingly so, but she had begun to notice strange things. A servant had dropped a tray of delicate crystal goblets in front of him, and he had caught them before they even touched the floor, moving faster than any human had a right to. Another time, during council, a poisoned drink intended for him had turned to harmless mist in his hand. "These things are not natural," she said softly. Daniel only smiled faintly. "The galaxy does not yet know my limits. I do." The palace council convened that morning, and the room crackled with tension. Alien nobles sat in carved chairs, their long limbs and scales stretched, their sharp eyes fixed on the queen and her human husband. The air smelled faintly of ozone and polished stone. "Your Majesty," one of the oldest counselors began, "we are concerned. A human cannot command fleets. He cannot understand alien politics. The Elthari Empire deserves a partner with strength and wisdom equal to yours." Daniel leaned forward slightly, his hands resting calmly on the edge of the table. "And yet," he said, voice steady, "I am here. I have already learned much about your ways, and I am willing to learn more. My loyalty is not measured in titles or bloodlines, but in action." A murmur ran through the council. Some scoffed, others were silent, unsure how to respond. The queen's eyes locked with Daniel's. She knew he was testing them, challenging them without aggression. The nobles did not realize it yet, but this calm human might be sharper than any of them. That afternoon, the queen took Daniel to the training halls. The halls were vast, filled with holographic targets, gravity simulations, and ancient alien weapons. Some of the nobles had tried to teach Daniel combat, but many had laughed at the idea that a human could endure the rigorous Elthari training. "Show me what you've learned," the queen said, her voice firm. Daniel nodded and stepped onto the platform. He moved with grace and speed that startled the instructors. Each motion precise, every strike calculated. He dodged attacks that would have cut down even the most skilled alien warrior. Some of the instructors whispered among themselves. "He is not human," one said. "No human can move like that." Daniel heard nothing. His focus was complete. The queen, watching him, felt a mixture of awe and relief. Perhaps her choice had not been foolish after all. That evening, as the twin moons of the Altari system rose over the palace, the queen and Daniel Waldio. The warning alarms echoed across the Altari palace. Crimson lights flashed in the corridors, bathing the grand halls in urgent color. Scouts had spotted the Krell Dominion fleets crossing the outer systems, heading straight for the heart of the Empire. For the first time, the distant threat felt dangerously close. Counselors rushed to their stations, faces pale with fear. For centuries, the Altari had faced threats before, but never had the Empire been so exposed. The Krell were fast, ruthless, and cunning. And now, their scouts were only hours from the capital. Queen Zeralis stood in the command chamber, her violet eyes sharp as she scanned the holomap of incoming enemy fleets. Beside her, Daniel Kane remained calm, his human frame small compared to the alien generals, yet his presence somehow steadied the room. "We must act," one of the generals said, voice shaking. "We cannot allow the Krell to reach our homeworlds. But the human, your husband, has no experience in commanding fleets. He cannot lead us." Daniel's gaze did not waver. "Experience is useful," he said evenly, "but not everything. Strategy is about thinking ahead, not following tradition." "Let me show you what can be done," the council murmured. Some nodded reluctantly, while others scowled, clearly doubting him. But the queen placed her hand lightly on his arm. "Do it," she commanded. "Lead our fleets." Daniel inclined his head. He activated the central console, pulling up tactical projections. Alien commanders leaned over, expecting confusion. Instead, they were met with precision. Daniel moved swiftly, reorganizing defenses, reallocating ships, and anticipating the enemy's moves before anyone else could react. The first Krell fleet emerged from the starlit void. Massive ships, black and angular, moved with deadly speed. Their weapons glowed ominously, charging with destructive energy. The Altari fleet readied itself, but panic flickered among the ranks. "Focus," Daniel said softly. "Do not fire until I give the signal. Move in patterns 3 and 7. Shields high, weapons aligned to sectors 6 and 9. Alien commanders exchanged astonished glances. They had expected indecision, hesitation, or mistakes. Instead, the human spoke like a general who had fought 100 battles, yet his eyes held no arrogance, only calm and calculation. The first clash came suddenly. Krell fighters swarmed toward the capital system, cutting through outer defenses. Energy beams flared, ships rocked from impacts, and alarms screamed across the fleet. Daniel watched the movements carefully. His hands flew over the controls, issuing commands in rapid succession. He predicted the Krell maneuvers, countering every strike with precision. Each of his decisions saved hundreds of ships from destruction. One massive Krell cruiser broke formation, aiming directly for the capital's orbital defenses. Alien admirals froze, unsure how to respond. "Trust me," Daniel said quietly. He activated a sequence the council had never seen before. Energy ripples formed in the vacuum, bending the Krell's trajectory and causing their cruiser to collide with one of their own ships. The explosion lit up the darkness like a new sun. Gasps filled the chamber. The human had just destroyed a warship with a strategy no Altari had ever imagined. Queen Zeralis stepped forward. Her hand tightened around the railing. This is incredible," she whispered. She had never seen a human fight like this, using only brains and instinct, yet acting with power that seemed almost beyond the species. The battle raged for hours. The Krell Dominion sent wave after wave of fighters and cruisers, but Daniel's calm and strategy turned the tide again and again. He coordinated the fleet as if he could see the enemy's thoughts. Shields shifted, weapons fired in perfect timing, and units moved as one living organism. In one critical moment, a group of Krell bombers slipped past the main fleet, aiming for the civilian transport ships near the capital. Panic spread among the Altari pilots. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He activated a series of hidden defense drones and guided them through the battlefield with uncanny precision. The drones intercepted the bombers, destroying them mid-flight before they could reach the transports. Alien commanders stared in shock. How does he do this?" one muttered. Daniel did not answer. He simply watched, calculated, and acted. Every move saved lives. Every decision showed strength no one had expected from a human. By nightfall, the first trial was over. The Krell fleet had retreated, battered and confused. The Altari had suffered losses, but the Empire's heart remained intact. For the first time, many nobles whispered not about doubt but about respect. Yet not all were convinced. Some still believed Daniel was a lucky anomaly, not a real force to be reckoned with. They could not see the quiet power beneath his calm exterior, the power of broken starlight waiting silently within him. A force that would awaken when the Empire truly needed it. Queen Xyralis watched him from the command chamber balcony. The stars reflected in her eyes as she saw him giving orders calm and steady. A mix of pride and wonder rose in her chest. She had chosen him for love. But now she saw he was more than that. He was her protector, her strategist, and the hidden strength of her empire. "You did it," she said softly, approaching him. Daniel glanced at her, faint sweat on his brow from hours of concentration. "We did it," he corrected. "Together. Every decision counts, every action matters," Xyralis smiled faintly. "Yes, together." That night, after the council reconvened to review the battle, the queen walked through the palace gardens with Daniel. The air was cool, and the glowing plants reflected softly on the water of the streams. "You were extraordinary today," she said. "The council, the commanders, even I was surprised." Daniel shrugged. "They underestimate humans." "Most do. I have learned to use that. But it is not just me. It is patience, observation, and understanding. And sometimes necessity." Xyralis looked at him closely. There was something more, something hidden. She could sense it, faintly pulsing beneath the calm exterior, a dangerous, powerful force, something not fully human yet part of him. "What is it that you hide?" she asked, her voice careful. Daniel hesitated only a moment before replying. "It is not yet time. You will understand when the Empire faces its greatest danger." The queen nodded slowly. "Then I will wait. But know this, I trust you." For a human, she thought, he carried the patience of a warrior, the mind of a strategist, and the courage of someone who had survived impossible odds. Perhaps the galaxy underestimated humans far too easily. In the days that followed, Daniel's reputation grew. Messages from the outer colonies spoke of a human commanding Elthari fleets with brilliance. Enemies whispered fearfully of the queen's new husband, whose calm mind and swift decisions had turned defeat into victory. Some nobles, still jealous or fearful, attempted to test him. They sent him challenges in the council, traps in the palace, even rumors meant to draw him into conflict. But Daniel navigated each with ease. Nothing could break him. Not words, not plans, not subtle attacks. Even Queen Xyralis, though she saw his strength growing, did not yet fully understand the secret power he carried. Broken starlight, the energy within him, a force that could shape battles and destroy fleets, remained hidden. She only saw the surface, the calm, brilliant human who faced doubt, insult, and danger without fear. And the galaxy was already taking notice. The first trial was over. Daniel had proven his mind, his courage, and his calm strength. But the true test, the one that would show the full force of broken starlight, had not yet arrived. And when it did, the entire empire would witness that the human queen Xyralis had married was far more than anyone could imagine. The Elthari Empire was quiet for only a brief moment before danger stirred again. The Krell Dominion had retreated, but the scars of the last attack remained fresh. Ships needed repairs, colonies needed aid, and rumors of Daniel Kane's brilliance spread like wildfire. Many began to whisper that the human queen Xyralis had chosen was not merely clever, but something far more. Xyralis watched him closely, her violet eyes narrowing in curiosity. He moved among the fleets and advisors with the same calm precision as before, yet there was a shadow behind his gaze she had never seen. Something untamed, a quiet energy that could explode into unimaginable power if ever provoked. One evening, after council had ended, she found him alone in the observation chamber. The stars reflected in the great windows, their light dancing across his face. "You've been silent," she said softly, "even as everyone watches you, judges you, and whispers their doubts." Daniel turned to her, expression serious. "Silence is a weapon sometimes," he replied. "Words can be traps. Action is truth." Xyralis stepped closer. "And yet I feel there is more, something inside you. I can sense it." He did not answer immediately. He let the silence stretch, then spoke quietly. "You are beginning to see it. Broken starlight. The thing I carry within. Few humans possess it. Fewer survive it." Xyralis blinked. "Broken starlight?" It is energy, strength, survival, he explained. It is dangerous even to me, but it gives me abilities no one expects. I can see threats before they happen. I can endure beyond what seems possible. I can fight when all odds are against me. But it comes at a cost. If uncontrolled, it can destroy everything around me, including myself. The Queen studied him. A human, plain to the eye, yet carrying a force that could rival the greatest weapons of the galaxy. She felt a shiver of both awe and fear. Then, "Is that why you could save the fleet before?" she asked. Daniel nodded. Yes, that was only a glimpse. Yikes. The peace the Elthari had hoped for was gone. Reports arrived that the Krell Dominion had amassed a full invasion fleet near the outer systems, larger and faster than any they had faced before. Entire sectors were threatened. Panic spread through the capital. For the first time, even some of the nobles who had begun to respect Daniel Kane felt fear. Queen Zyralis stood on the observation balcony of the palace, watching the distant stars flicker with incoming ships. She felt the familiar tension in her chest, yet she was not afraid. Beside her, Daniel remained calm. His hands rested lightly on the railing, his eyes scanning the approaching fleets. "They are coming," Zyralis said, her voice steady. Daniel nodded. "Yes, and we will meet them." Some counselors doubted him openly. "Your Majesty, a single human cannot face this," one said. "Our fleets alone are not enough." Daniel turned his gaze to the counselor. His voice was quiet but firm. "It is not about being a single human. It is about using every advantage, every strategy, every moment of skill. The Krell may be strong, but they are predictable. They underestimate us, and that will be their mistake." The counselors shifted uneasily. Even the most skeptical could not deny that Daniel had proven himself before. Yet none could anticipate the full power he had yet to show. The fleet moved into position under Daniel's orders. Ships aligned in formations no Elthari commander had used before, combining speed, defense, and attack in ways that confused and disoriented the enemy scouts. The Krell had expected hesitation, disorganization, but instead they found precision and calm, a human mind weaving chaos into strategy. The first skirmish erupted as the Krell launched waves of fighters against the Elthari fleet. Daniel watched, eyes calculating each movement, hands moving across the command interface with lightning speed. In one moment, dozens of ships were surrounded and trapped without a single loss on his side. Queen Zyralis felt a thrill of awe. The man she had married was extraordinary. She had suspected his hidden strength, but seeing him command fleets like this, his mind predicting moves before the enemy made them, was more than she had imagined. "Watch carefully," he whispered to her. "This is only the beginning." The Krell were relentless. A massive cruiser broke through the fleet's outer defenses, moving toward the command ship. Alien generals panicked, unsure how to respond. Daniel's eyes narrowed. A faint glow shimmered beneath his skin, illuminating the veins in silver light. Broken starlight had begun to awaken. Not fully, but enough to heighten his perception, speed, and energy. With calm determination, he activated defensive drones that swarmed the cruiser, disabling its engines and forcing it into retreat. "Impossible," one Krell commander muttered over comms. "The human? He is not just clever. He is something else." Daniel did not hear it. His mind was already calculating the next steps, orchestrating maneuvers that ensured the enemy would remain off balance. Each strike was precise, each decision saving lives. Entire fleets were maneuvered like pieces on a chessboard, and the Krell could not keep up. Hours passed, and the battle escalated. The Krell unleashed their full armada, energy beams slicing through the darkness, explosions painting the void in bright flashes. The Elthari fleet began to tire, but Daniel remained unshaken. He moved through the command deck with calm efficiency, issuing orders and correcting mistakes before they could occur. "Queen Zyralis," he said quietly, "stay close. The next move will require my full attention." She nodded, understanding immediately. The glow beneath his skin was growing brighter. Broken starlight was preparing to fully manifest. He had restrained it before, but now, faced with a fleet determined to crush the Empire, he would need more than strategy. "Do what you must," she said softly. "I trust you completely." Daniel's eyes met hers, and she saw not arrogance, but responsibility. He did not wield this power for dominance or glory. He wielded it for the survival of the Empire, and for her. When the Krell launched a concentrated attack on the outer colonies, Daniel finally unleashed more of broken starlight. Energy flared from him like a storm, radiating across the command deck. The ship shuddered under the force, but he remained steady, guiding fleets with preternatural precision. Enemy ships faltered under his control. Energy blasts that should have destroyed Elthari ships fizzled harmlessly, while Krell cruisers were forced into collisions or retreats. Pilots reported a strange clarity, as if the human's mind was directing them directly, and they responded with perfect synchronization. Queen Zyralis could only watch, her heart pounding. She had suspected he was extraordinary. She had seen hints of broken starlight before, but seeing it now, fully manifested in a real battle, was beyond anything she had imagined. As the night of battle continued, Daniel's strategies dismantled the Krell assault. Entire divisions were forced to retreat, and the remaining enemy ships were scattered, disorganized, and frightened. Every Elthari vessel that had survived now moved with flawless coordination. Even the counselors who had doubted him could no longer speak. Their human husband and queen's consort was not merely clever or lucky. He was a force of nature. When the last Krell ships withdrew, Daniel allowed the glow of broken starlight to fade. He breathed deeply, exhausted but unbowed. The fleet was battered, but the Empire had survived. The Elthari looked at him with awe, fear, and a grudging respect. Queen Zyralis approached him in the aftermath, her violet eyes bright with emotion. You saved them all," she whispered. Daniel looked at her, still calm despite the battle's strain. "We saved them, together," she shook her head, smiling despite the chaos. "No, you alone commanded the impossible. You turned certain defeat into victory. The Empire owes you more than they can understand." Daniel's gaze softened. "Then I will continue to serve. Not for thanks, not for glory, but because it is necessary. That is all that matters." In the following days, Daniel's reputation spread beyond the Elthari Empire. Colonies whispered of the human who had faced the Krell Dominion with courage and brilliance. Some spoke in awe, others in fear. The Krell themselves began to fear the Queen's human consort, wondering what else he might be capable of. Even within the Empire, doubts and plots among nobles began to falter. They could no longer ignore the truth. Daniel Kane was not ordinary. He was not just a human. He was broken starlight incarnate, a force of strategy, courage, and energy beyond imagination. Queen Zyralis watched him often, her heart swelling with pride. She had married for love, yes, but now she realized she had also married a protector, a warrior, and a force that could shape the fate of the galaxy. "Do you fear the power within you?" she asked one evening, walking beside him in the palace gardens. Daniel shook his head. "No, I control it. It is dangerous only if I allow it to be. I wield it carefully. Always for protection, never for pride." She smiled faintly. "Then I am certain of one thing. I married wisely." And deep inside, Daniel knew that the next battle would demand even more of broken starlight. The Krell Dominion would return, stronger and more determined. But now he was ready, not only as a human, but as a weapon, a protector, and the hidden strength of the Elthari Empire. The galaxy would remember this battle, and the name Daniel Kane, human and broken starlight, would become legend. The calm that followed the last battle was short-lived. Reports arrived from the outer systems. The Krell Dominion had regrouped. Entire fleets were moving, and this time there would be no retreat. Their invasion was total, their determination absolute. The Elthari Empire faced the greatest threat in centuries. Queen Zyralis stood on the palace balcony, her violet eyes reflecting the distant stars. She had faced many crises before, but none had tested her as deeply as this. Beside her, Daniel Kane remained calm. His presence radiated strength, a silent promise that the Empire would endure. "They are coming," she said, her voice steady despite the storm building in her chest. Daniel nodded. "Yes, and this time we will not only defend, we will strike," the council gasped. Strike? The Krell were massive, their numbers overwhelming. No one had ever suggested an offensive against them in the Empire's history, but Daniel's calm confidence silenced the room. "We have something they do not expect," he continued. "We have strategy, surprise, and strength they cannot measure, trust me. Follow my orders." The fleet moved into position. Daniel had anticipated every possible Krell maneuver, reorganizing the ships into formations that would maximize speed, defense, and attack. He did not just command the fleet, he controlled it like a conductor guiding a symphony. Energy rippled faintly from him, broken streaks of broken starlight illuminating his veins, a quiet storm of power beneath the calm surface. As the Krell approached, a wave of fighters surged forward. Energy beams flared and explosions rippled through space. The Elthari ships dodged with precision previously thought impossible. Every strike, every maneuver was coordinated flawlessly. Alien commanders who had doubted him before watched in awe. Daniel was not merely human. He was a force beyond their understanding. Then came the first challenge. A massive Krell dreadnought broke through the outer fleet, heading straight for the command ship. Its weapons glowed with destructive energy, capable of obliterating entire fleets. Alien generals panicked, unsure how to stop it. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He let a pulse of broken starlight flow through him, sharpening his reflexes and perception. His hands moved across the controls, faster than any human.